Hello and welcome to the Embodied Women series. My name is Melissa Mahar, and today we are being joined by my dear friend, Vanessa Benolo. She is an incredible human being doing amazing work on this planet. She is the founder and creator of the Soul Guiding Institute. And I just want to welcome you here, Vanessa. Thank you so much for making some time in your calendar to be here with us today.
Thanks, Melissa, for having me. As you've shared, and for the audience that's listening, you're a dear friend of mine. We've also worked together in many capacities, been in trainings together, and our connection is really deep. And so I'm really glad to support you and support those that are your audience and your people that you support. I'm glad to be here with you today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. When we first connected, when I invited you into coming onto this series, that literally was just a little spark that happened in my heart. I just felt like something for International Women's Day. I wanted to celebrate some of the amazing women that I know. And when we first kind of started having, the kind of ping pong match of like, what do we want to talk about? Some of the things that came forward, which I'm excited to begin the conversation on, were around some of like the masculine feminine energetics. When we've worked together, we did some of that work in business, but I know that it doesn't just apply to business. And we kind of jokingly talked about like how as feminine women and feminine beings, like that kind of idea of going with the flow, which is such an overused term, but it really is part of our gifts and part of our essence. But really, what that means, and I would love for you to speak on this too, is like how we navigate going with the flow as feminine women, but truly like led by the soul, not by our past or things like that. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about like some energetic principles for maybe people who don't know a lot about that stuff, or maybe just know a little bit, and then we can kind of go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Yes, so energetics, when we're speaking here about energetics, we're speaking about the energy of creation, which everything on the planet is created, or I see it is created through masculine and feminine energy. That's not gender for anyone listening. It's we all embody both of these energies. And when you talked about it being led by soul, I want to speak about that first, just because I think that's like the pre-work, let's call it, right? Is like um, doing that ego integration work, which can be anything from, you know, releasing and healing conditioning from childhood, like beliefs of like maybe what your parents thought you should be or what you thought society thinks you should be. Women, of course, like have a lot of these experiences where we're told to like be quiet and be small, right? Like lose weight, be skinny, be not take up a lot of space. Like often when we look in a room where like lots of women are sitting, there might be crossing their legs or tr like literally physically trying to take up the
Yeah.
amount of space, right?
Mhm.
And we can see like men in society, they're taking up the whole space. They're sitting with their chairs, like their hands like on the other chair, it's on the table, like there's all this space like being taken up. And I think, there's a lot of conditioning that when we begin to kind of create from our soul, there's a lot of deconstruction of that conditioning. So maybe we need to do inner child healing, mother wound healing, father wound healing. Maybe there's parts of us we've dismissed and shunned, right? And so maybe we have to do healing shame work, or we have to embody parts of ourselves that we have dismissed, right? Like we can do archetypal work, right? Working with different feminine or masculine also archetypes of parts of ourselves we've dismissed. And in all of that, let's call it decluttering, it's like, having the ego really heal and begin to be open to even understanding who one truly is, then we can begin to follow like the path of the soul. And actually, the ego then becomes this like, it's like a dance between ego and soul, where ego is actually now becomes the part that helps us manifest what our soul's kind of mission, vision, what we came here on the planet to do and be, like what that is. The ego
Mhm.
helps us to do that. So it's like the dance of those two things together. And in those ways, you can also see ego, like, for lack of a better way of looking at it, but as masculine, the doing, right? And
Mm,
the soul as the feminine aspect. And so that's why like everything has these two energies. And maybe we want to share, maybe both of us teach a little bit about those energies here because maybe people aren't familiar with that. I don't know if you'd like me to share more or
yeah,
you to share more about
you were
that.
just in my mind because I was like, wow, I've never heard it positioned in that way, that the of the ego. So yeah, please tell
Yes.
me.
So let's look at masculine energy in general. Our masculine is our doing. And when we look at purpose work, which is a lot of my training, which is that I've brought into Soul Guiding Institute, but it's like it's our gifts, it's what we do in the world. It's that first journey of evolution. It's Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Who are
Mhm.
we in the world? That's purpose, right? Like that's where you hear people kind of saying, like, I want to know my purpose, I want to do my purpose. That's like ego trying to, like, in essence, grasp at an idea and an identity of who one is, right? And so the masculine is our doing, it's our gifts, it's the energy that gives to somebody else, right? Like, and not to get graphic, but it's like the masculine, right, penetrates, it gives, and the feminine receives, right?
Yeah.
The masculine part of us leads. It's the part of us that decides, like, in a very basic environment, it's like, hey, do we go? I don't know, Melissa, should we go to I don't know, should we go to Bali or should we go back to Tofino like we did last year, right? Like what do we do? And it's like the masculine's the one that goes like in our bigger vision, this is the one that we're committing to. But the feminine's like, why can't we do both, right? Like the feminine is like multitasking. It's the part of us that's like surrenders to the journey. It doesn't, maybe it isn't the part that necessarily makes the commitment. The masculine makes the commitment. The masculine creates the structure. The masculine is like the part of us that makes sure we're within budget on a project. The masculine is the part of us that makes sure that if we're trying to work with clients that we know how to receive a payment from them. The masculine
Mhm.
part of us is the part that, makes a bank account for our business or for ourselves or for our children, and it's like that's the one that's like holding, it's the container.
Yeah.
And that flow, the feminine is the abundance, the ease,
Mhm.
the radiance, the attracting clients, the attracting things, friendships, experiences, opportunities, creating beauty. That's what the feminine is, right? And so
Mhm.
it's the dance of these two things that really, well, I believe, creates a life and a humanity that's truly beautiful. Is like this, once the ego has been deconditioned and reintegrated as the part that actually helps manifest what the soul's mission is, then the two go together and you basically create like an aligned life, a life
Mhm.
that is a life that's led by your soul. It doesn't mean that you like transcended the ego, which we hear a lot, right? Like
Yeah.
in spirituality is like
Yeah.
it transcends the ego. And it's like, well, when we transcend the ego and we're all just soul, I think we're probably just like meditating on a rock somewhere in like a beautiful nature space. But like, what impact or what are we doing, right? And I think both of those things are important. And I think that's the dance that I do very well and how I support clients is that dance of both. Like, how do you have your
Mhm.
feet like planted on the ground, right? And still be like connected to source. It's both. It's not like one or the other. But
Mhm.
often you see people struggling if they're in one only or in the other only. It's like if you're in the feminine only, there's a lot of flow, but there's not maybe a lot of discipline or a lot of
Mhm.
structure. Or if you have so much discipline and so much structure, there's like no creativity and there's no enjoyment and there's no beauty. It's just like minimalist, although I think that's
Yeah.
like a trend right now, but it's like that minimalist, like if this thing doesn't serve a purpose, like it's not here, right? While like sometimes the purpose is just beauty, right?
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, and it's like some of the things that I've had to do in my journey is like reframe the experience with the ego. And it's not a small feat by any means, but like recognizing it as an ally, as the mirror, as the teacher to show us things to then take into our practices and then integrate and, as you say, align and move forward with it. But
Mhm.
yeah,
It is
it's
quite a
intense stuff.
journey. It's quite a journey to like really be. willing to sit with the ego, to be honest, to really be with it. And it takes time. Like there's you can't rush it because I
Mhm.
think some of these like divine teachings that come through our on our soul's evolutionary journey is like in divine timing. Like some
Yeah.
things and healing, as you know, and evolving is like a spiral. So we're like revisiting things
Mhm.
in a deeper layer and a deeper layer and a deeper layer. So it's not really one of those things that it's just like, I'm gonna do this one
One and
thing
done.
and that's
Yeah.
it. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite the
Yeah.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also takes a lot of courage, like to really sit with ourselves and in those spaces. And what I found too, and with the women that I work with and women that you work with too, it's like there's always something underneath that. And for me, what I've seen a lot of is like it's tied to something in our childhood. And you mentioned that of like that deconstruction and that unlearning of the ideas, beliefs, and things that were placed into our thoughts, our beliefs from a young age that we've just grown up carrying, thinking that this is actually who we are, but it's not. Like not the real us.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I do think a lot of, especially in the early parts of our journey, like a lot of even like the stories we share or the things that bother us or the things that irritate us, like all of these are little like glimpses of portals into parts of you that want to be integrated into wholeness. So like
Mhm.
whenever I see like whenever my clients get triggered, not that I'm like celebrating their triggers, but every time they're like get triggered, I'm like, yes, another part of you is like ready to be loved into wholeness. Like, hello, little piece, right? Like that's just been like scraggling and hanging out over here. And so I think if we can kind of make also this kind of work playful and
Mm.
kind of sometimes funny too, because it can at times be difficult, like, right? And
Yeah.
it can feel heavy. And I think like I'm kind of like on this mission to make this kind of inner work enjoyable, more enjoyable
Mhm.
because it can
Mm.
be just really, it can feel at times heavy, but it doesn't have to be either. Like you
Yeah.
can be like, hey, trigger, yes, like, right, so happy to
Yeah.
see you. Or hey,
Yeah.
inner child, like I'm here to love you in the way that mom never did,
Yeah.
and it can just be like, it can be playful too.
Mhm.
I think that's
I
that feminine
agree.
coming in. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And I think there's like you're absolutely right. Like there is so much seriousness. There's a lot of heaviness. There's a lot of like deep, cathartic, like death of the ego that we go through. And there's also that part that we actually have to relearn
Hmm.
playfulness, happiness, joy, love, all of that kind of stuff. And having that as a part of our healing practice, like actually saying, yes, I am going to go and I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do something fun because I've been going through all of these, heavier things, let's say. It's important, and those celebrations often go underrated, I think, too, like when we celebrate ourselves or when something great happens.
Hmm.
We have to train ourselves, and that, I say to people sometimes, it's like that's the next level, is that after we've done, that spiral where we've kind of gone through some of that heavy stuff, we have to train our hearts, our minds, our bodies to open to joy and pleasure and happiness, which is kind of weird. You almost automatically think that, that would just happen, but sometimes there's a nervous system build that is required to then go and have fun after you've integrated some things.
You're 100% right. It's like that's exactly what I see. I started to see after so many years of like working with clients that like at first I didn't want to like kind of be like, hey, you did a great job celebrating them because I didn't want to build like a codependency, like a parent-child situation where
Mhm.
then it's like, oh, I'm proud of you. Oh, I'm never disappointed my clients, but I'm just saying like, where it's like, oh, I'm proud and it's like, wait, if you can be proud, then you can be disappointed. So I used to not do that, but then I start to see like, wow, some of the time we do so much inner work too that we have like what I call trauma brain where we're just like actively looking, and I think as healers, you can probably resonate, just like we're
Yeah.
actively like, what else needs to be worked on? Like what else, where's the depth of that or where did that come from? And like we're kind of analyzing ourselves. And I think like And I've seen that with clients. It's sometimes the hardest thing is to actually just be like I'm amazing, or that what I've done is great, and I don't need to actually look at every single instance in my life and also just like microanalyze it all for
Yeah.
like where the trauma came from and all of that. And so I think when you spoke about the capacity, the nervous system capacity, that's really what it is. It's that feminine
Mhm.
allowing in play and joy, and seeing that as just as transformative, if not more, than
Yeah.
some of the other work too, right? So,
So true.
yeah.
So true. Like to laugh and to smile where your cheeks
Yeah.
hurt. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. That's what it feels like sometimes. You're like, oh my God. Like my
Yeah.
cheeks hurt, but it's on the inside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
What is what is something that stands out to you in your journey, whether it's your own personal healing journey or a journey that you've witnessed with a client or a friend? What's something that stands out to you as like revolutionary or like transformative, like something that really like impacted you in a way that you became different after,
Mm.
where it's like, wow, I never saw life this way before.
Mm.
Like there's that point in the map where it's like, after this, life is different.
You mean with working with my clients, right? How my clients changed me is what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that happened last year in a way
Mm,
that was so profound. I actually wrote about it. I have a client who's writing a book. It's going to release very shortly here, called Calm in the Chaos. She was diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer last year.
mm,
She is like so fit, so healthy. Like she is now training to be like a hypnotherapist. She's been my client for years. This is her second book she's writing. She released another book called Built Stronger last year. Her name's Bonnie Strati. I'm sure she would be okay with me sharing this because I've shared this in the book, and the book's going to come out shortly. But I had supported clients who had gone through cancer before already. Um, but she really like approached it like, I don't know, she's my client, but a lot of my clients become like my friends in that like I am just like deeply invested in their life, and I love them dearly. And I think when people come from like a therapy perspective, it's very like you have to remain objective and like this and
yeah.
this. And when we come from a coaching perspective, it's like you also like have these boundaries obviously with my clients, but it's like it just touched me so personally. And she started writing this book last year as she was going through it. She literally gamified her treatment weeks. Like every time she did
Mhm.
chemo, she sent us like check marks, and like she had like shirts, and like she was just like so empowering as she went through the journey. And we were, as she was writing this book, she would share parts of it with me in sessions. And in this book, Calm in the Chaos, she actually gets people to write, because the book is meant to help people deal with the uncertainty of something like a cancer diagnosis. But she really wrote it in the context of like, how it can support anyone going through any uncertainty in life. And there's a section in the book where people who supported her got to write kind of guidance for others in
Mm,
how to support people who get diagnosed with cancer. And
mm,
I wrote a piece in that she asked me. And when I was writing that, and she was sharing with me even before she had asked me, other people had written, her mom had written things, like her oncologist, like different people. And there was one session where she read a piece to me, and I just started crying. Like I just started crying. And I had also cried when she got diagnosed, but I had just started crying in session with her. And I have had lots of clients move me. I've had tears in my eyes, but I've never actually just allowed my own self to feel
yeah.
so deeply in a session, because I'm usually see myself as like, I am here to hold space for you.
Yeah.
So I am the container, and so I am solid while you experience your
Yeah.
emotions. So basically, I'm in the masculine holding space, and my
Mhm.
clients are in the feminine. But in that moment, I just allowed myself to be so deeply human. And
Mm.
the way that that shifted me is like I feel like I bring more of my humanity
Yeah.
to my sessions now than
Yeah.
I've ever done before. And
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like that is way more powerful
Yeah.
than remaining just like strictly, let's call it objective, like the way
Yeah.
we're taught to lead, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
how she changed me. And I'm forever changed. I also cried last week in another session.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that one was beautiful because it was like a daughter had spoken to her mom, and
Mhm.
understood her mom's journey. And it's like there's just so much humanness and it's
Yeah.
so powerful,
Yeah.
and so moving. Yeah.
I love that about coaching, and I agree. Like, there's a lot of red tape with therapy and other things, and I think therapy is great for people at a certain point in their journey. I've been to therapy and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, a few years ago, I vowed that for myself too, to allow my human into the sessions, and I think it makes it deeply personable and relatable when your human is allowed to be there. And it makes me think of one of my long-term clients too. And like me and this girl, we have been through it together. Like, I think the first one was like when her dog passed. She had a miscarriage. But the one that I'll always remember is we were at the end of a call, like literally we got like 2 minutes left, and she received a phone call that her ex partner had committed suicide. And I was on the call with her when she got that call. And I was like, I am not getting off this call. And I will forever, like, I'm getting chills right now, like, be
I have
moved by
chills too.
that
Yeah.
human moment of just witnessing somebody's life trajectory change. Because I was in that relationship with her when she was in that relationship and like navigating it. And, he, bless his heart, I hope he's doing well on the other side. But yeah, it's powerful. And I think, that's us allowing our soul to lead, because what I know of you and what I know of myself is we're deeply compassionate, loving, caring people who have large capacities to hold love and space for people. And yeah, I think that's really important. And so if somebody wants to discover for themselves what it feels like to let their life lead. You touched on a few, or sorry, their soul to lead. You touched on a few things before, but where would somebody begin with that? And how would you articulate it to somebody? Because I know for each individual it's going to be different. Like, it's going to feel
Yes.
different for you than it is for me of what it feels like when my soul is leading. But where could somebody begin, and what would you recommend to them?
Yeah. I think every client's journey to what they're open to is unique. So some people will find that pathway, let's call it through therapy, right? Like I did lots of therapy from like a really young age, from like 8 to 22, but then eventually it only gives you so much. And I think you kind of touched on that too, right? And it's like, so depending on where people are in their journeys, they might start, a good place to start is like, what do I believe about myself to be true?
Mhm.
Even on your own, you can do that. Like, what do I
Mhm.
believe about myself to be true? What do I believe I'm supposed to be? And then look at those beliefs and go, where did those come from? Are those true for me? Oh, I think I should be an accountant. Well, do I actually think that? Or, did my dad, I'm making up a story, my dad's an accountant.
Yeah.
My dad's passed, but like, it's like, should I be an accountant because my dad's an accountant, right? Like, and it's like even at that most fundamental level, because it's like just beginning to be curious. Like, so if I want to say to anyone something that is accessible to any person listening to this, it's really to begin with curiosity. Like,
Mhm.
because I could tell you like a bunch of techniques, which I have lots. Obviously, that's why I'm built Soul Guiding Institute. And it's really about like, I have lots of exercises for like how to witness your emotions and how to like, really get clear on what your purpose is. and what you're committing to. I feel like we are our purpose. Like you are your purpose. I always say to people, you are being your purpose at all times. Your purpose expression evolves just like you do. So it's like there's specific exercises you can do for things like that. There's exercises for inner child healing. There's journeys, there's somatic work, there's lots of avenues. But at the core of it, I would say is the curiosity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because the curiosity to uncover and discover what is within yourself and to begin to look within for answers instead of looking outside of you, not outside to your parents, to your friends, not outside to society, not outside to Instagram and whoever says whatever is the epitome of success at this moment. And it's like turn everything inward. It's like the epitome of success is not like having XYZ car, XYZ home, or XYZ bag. It's also not, which is what it's going to become now, not being able to go to saunas, doing infrared light therapy. Like it's,
Yeah.
yes, those things help, but it's not those things either. It is literally at the end of the day going inward. And so the curiosity inward is, I would say, step one to any person wanting to discover what living a soul aligned life is. And everyone has that in some way, right? Unless they're
Mm-hmm.
unwilling to look at it. And sometimes that feels unsafe to look at if it's scary because we have buried our true self so deeply that the
Mm-hmm.
ego has now created a construct to keep you safe in the life that you've made, comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't want you to look at it, right? That's self-sabotage. And that's when working with someone like yourself or myself is helpful because otherwise it's too scary to look at it. Because it's like, I know if you're the kind of person listening that's like, if I look inward, my whole life needs to change and I'm petrified of that. So I'm not gonna look inside. I'm just gonna go buy this other thing.
Yeah.
That's when you need us, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's true. And we will avoid we will avoid looking at things in all different ways.
Yeah,
Work, buying things, all this kind of stuff. Our ego will distract us as much as it possibly can because its
yeah,
fear is that, oh my God, if they actually discover who they are, then I'm going to be obsolete.
exactly.
I'll have no purpose.
Yeah, the ego's like, wait a minute, I am very invested in my job. It's like the loyal employee that's like, what do you mean? This is my job. I've been doing this job for however old you are, right? And it's like, what do you mean we're going to do something different? No, I know how to do this job very, very well. And I want to
Yeah.
keep doing this job because I want to be the best at this job. And then
Yeah.
until you can reframe and start to teach your ego that,
Mhm.
it is not going to be out of a job, that you actually need it. And I
Yeah.
think that was the issue with a lot of like the spirituality around like the 70s and the positive vibes only and the positive
Mhm.
psychology movement is like the whole narrative was like transcend the ego, transcend the ego. The ego is like, wait, excuse me, what? And now I think what we're seeing emerge and a big reason why I'm creating Soul Guiding Institute is like it is about the beauty of being human in this time. And being human is ego, right? And soul. It is we are spirit having a human experience.
Yeah.
We are not soul trying to pretend to have a human experience, having a soul experience, right? We are here
Mhm.
to have a human experience. You came here to taste water, to like to
Yeah.
whatever, wear clothes, to
Yeah.
make love to a partner, to like, cry with a friend, to do all of the things, right? To
Yeah.
touch and feel things. And
Yeah.
we're not here to just kind of like have the ego be gone. And this is a critical thing that you're talking about here is like
Yeah.
very important. If anybody chooses to hire anyone to help them, they have to understand exactly what you shared because that is the difference. That thing, a guide or a healer that knows that the ego is afraid of losing its job in essence and it's going to be repurposed to something even greater, that is what you need to look for in
Yeah.
someone that supports you because that's how you live a soul-led life.
Mm.
That
Mhm.
integrates both, right? So that's super powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like to say, like, I reassign it roles. Like, I look at the parts of
Yes.
myself that, you know, maybe a little less than desirable at some times, and I give it a rebrand, a repurpose, where it's like,
Yep.
okay, um, part of me that likes to be a little controlling or the perfectionist, like I give it
Yeah.
an extra role. And I'd be like, okay, perfectionist, you get to show up over here when you're cleaning the bathroom, or
Yes.
the part of me that really like, I mean, you know this because we came to see you last year, but like, I like to plan travel. Like, I like to plan things, and oh, it's so much fun, right? So it's like that part of me gets to come alive. And even just as I said that, you felt that, you saw that in me. It's like it gets me alive. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. I'm gonna plan a trip, or I'm gonna plan a party. Like it's
Yeah.
fun, right? And so
Yeah.
just reassigning the roles,
Correct.
so that it still gets to play out, and then communicating it to be like, okay, it's your turn, and then you turn off. you know um,
Exactly. And this is what you're speaking about is like they know in cognitive behavioral therapy, right?
mm,
It's parts work. In purpose work,
yeah,
it's also parts work or voice work. So like people can work with, someone like ourselves, but they could also, if you want to go a therapy route, go to
yeah,
cognitive behavioral therapy. If you want to
yeah,
go a purpose route, hire a purpose guide who knows how to do voice work or parts work. Like
yeah,
it is exactly the epitome of it, is like reassigning it where it can be useful. It's like if you have and I call like mine the queen, the image consultant. It cared about like a lot growing up how I looked like because I grew up in a family that's like my mom was Miss Aruba. Like there's a lot of image things. And so then now I get to repurpose that, like you said. And I'm like, oh, your job is to make sure the website looks good. You know what I mean? Like you don't get to
yeah,
pick at me anymore, but you can
yeah,
do it there. It's like, okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
So it's
Love it.
just like we have all these pieces, right?
Yeah, and it's loving us in our entirety. Like I love
Yeah.
that quote that says, and I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't remember it verbatim, but it's basically along the lines of, when I have accepted myself fully is when I can begin to change.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've accepted myself fully as I am. I no longer, like you're saying to yourself, I no longer need to change. I'm perfect the way that I am, is
Mhm.
when you actually get to begin to change. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's that encompassing of the full self, and to the point of like other movements, or very well intended, I'm sure, but like this love and light is BS. And it's, we have to experience the entirety. And I often say to people too, like, we've come here to experience the human experience, and that includes the full range of emotions.
Hmm.
I remember thinking to myself, oh, one day I'll no longer be angry. Yeah, that was funny when I figured out, oh no, you're
No,
always
but it's
going to
like if
be
we're
angry.
no longer angry, we never have boundaries, right? Because anger
Yeah,
is that emotion to help you set a boundary you didn't know you needed, or like
yeah,
a boundary was crossed that wasn't set, right? Like
yeah,
we
yeah,
need the anger. It's just the
yeah,
anger expression. I always say, like,
yeah,
don't do anger management and don't do like, there's no anger management issues. It's anger expression issues. Often, like, the people who are the most angry have been
yeah,
suppressing themselves more deeply,
yeah,
right? So, like,
yeah.
did you find, when you were saying that to yourself, like, one day I'll no longer be angry, you were just like rejecting that part of you, right?
Part of
But
myself, yeah.
I'm curious to what, in embracing, like you were saying, embracing your whole self, what did you find emerged in wholeness
Hmm.
through accepting your anger? Like, what did you find
Hmm.
is available to you now?
A deeper sense of self acceptance and self love, and a place where I haven't actually openly talked about this, but I
Mhm.
will. Like, I was deeply struggling with emotional regulation and anger over the last few years. I actually took an anger management class because
Mhm.
I was really lacking in so many, my ability to regulate. And I thought I was just a horrible person because I was not able to regulate. I'm actually feeling like heat in my face, right? And like
Like flush, yeah. Yeah.
I'm feeling the authenticity of what I'm sharing right now, because it's very vulnerable, especially as somebody who has guided people and working with people. Like, to say like I'm a flawed being,
You're not
is
flawed though, right? Like it's like
no,
you're
yeah, yeah,
with it. Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Yes.
But like there's so much of that because I am a guide and I'm supporting people, but I was struggling and hiding that struggle too. And
Yeah.
as I started to talk more about it, like it was liberating and stuff. But and to answer your question, like it gave me a deeper sense of self compassion, self awareness. And also, what it really opened me up to was actually realizing that my emotional dysregulation had nothing to do with my emotions and actually more about my body. Because when I went to do some blood work just randomly, I was like, oh, I got a new doctor. Let's go do some blood work.
Yeah.
Everything I was deficient in was correlated to mood and being able to regulate my emotions.
Mm.
And I had this epiphany of, oh, wow, I am not this horrible person who can't regulate her anger. My
Mm.
body is actually deficient. And that's where coming in and bringing all these pieces together in. And that's my upcoming course Worthy is all about. It's integrating all of it because we can work on one of these levels, but until we bring it all together,
Mhm.
nervous system, mind, body, soul, it's like there might be components that just haven't fully integrated, as we said. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me of the parts of myself that I've hidden or rejected, how they actually became the greatest power. And that's huge for anybody's healing. Anything that you feel like is the worst thing about you is actually the best part about you.
It really is because I always say like when we can talk about like fragmentation within, right? Like when we're talking about coming into wholeness, like we're imagining like this part that you shunned. It's almost like a part of you you put in like the corner of a timeout in your being. It's
Yeah.
like often those parts that we've shamed, right? Like and you kept hidden because it's like, oh, I have to fit this idea like of how a healer supports a healer's not allowed to have anger, like then it's like, oh, I can't show this. I can't share this. And actually, I think a lot more suffering happens when we have to not only deal with the thing, but hide the thing that we're dealing
Yeah.
with, right? And but it's like when you kind of bring that part in and maybe also doing the blood work just allowed yourself to be like, hey, there's nothing wrong with
Mm-hmm.
this piece. But I think even for people who suffer from anger, that maybe it's not due to like, blood work being off or things
Mm-hmm.
like this. It's like anger is really like a beautiful energy that moves us to set a boundary. And we will stay angry and get angrier and angrier and angrier until we learn how to actually set a boundary in like a peaceful way that's supportive, right? And sometimes we're like, oh, I don't know, let's be less angry at our kids or something. So let's like, in order to be less angry, I should just be more accepting, like more just allowing like whatever's taking place. But it's like not necessarily like kids need structure, right? And that's boundaries so that they can feel like they can flow too. And I think all of these things help to regulate an environment. And especially if someone is like very sensitive, right? As healer, like, we are very sensitive. Like we pick up
Mm-hmm.
everything. Like maybe you were also picking up everything from the environment and from everywhere, right? Like, did you find that? How did you find like so after you did your blood work, if you don't mind sharing, like what journey did you go on then for yourself that kind of found you to a place of like deeper regulation? Because you said it's like that part is also your biggest piece, right? Like it's like the biggest power, the best part of you. So like I'm curious to hear like in that journey you went on, what is like the best parts of you that you discovered? Like I know you mentioned compassion, but is there other parts of you that came online um
Mm-hmm.
through that? And how did that kind of shift your life or shift like those you
Mm-hmm.
interact with? Yeah.
Yeah, like I was then able to take care of my body, which was also a part of me that I was rejecting for so long.
Mm,
I've always had a story around my body. And so, again, it came into a level of acceptance and care for myself to just be
mm,
like, okay, I'm going to start eating better. I'm going to start moving. I'm going to start supplementing.
mm,
And that although they are physical actions of me going to get the vitamins and me going to the gym, it all equated care
Mm,
because I wasn't able to care for myself
hmm.
when I was getting angry. Because
Yeah.
that was the illusion, right? Where I was over giving or I wasn't asking for help or I whatever the case is, it was all it boils down to was I wasn't taking care of myself.
Mm.
And so it taught me that I have to take care of myself.
So it's like
And
the anger sounds like it was trying to share with you boundaries for your self-care.
yeah,
Like,
yes.
a
It's like
lot
you
of
have to
sense.
take care of yourself. And so that
Yeah.
is now like what I communicate to myself and to other people. It's like, well, if I
Mm-hmm.
don't do this, if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to show up in the best way because I do have a great capacity to care and give and love.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know this, but like you can't give from an empty cup.
Yeah,
And
absolutely not.
right.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
it
Yeah.
was prioritizing self. Like it's very
Yeah.
natural for me to give to other people,
Of course. Yes.
but
Yeah.
there was it natural to give to myself.
That makes a lot of sense. I can definitely resonate with that, where it's like, I mean, I definitely take care of myself and like eat healthy, do all the things. But I think just naturally, as people who tend to gravitate to this work, we do tend to be people who give
Yeah.
maybe sometimes more than we allow in and receive. And so here
Mhm.
we're talking again about that masculine, feminine kind of dance, right? Like giving is the masculine. And often people think of like healers and guides and therapists as because the work feels feminine. It's actually quite masculine because we're holding
Mhm.
space, we're holding the container, we're giving of our time, right? And so they're like we need lots of like
Mhm.
downtime, time in nature,
Mhm.
like time, unstructured time, right? That's that feminine surrender, like just flow and when you
Mhm.
talked about planning, you are a great planner. Like, and I
I
love
love
that because for me, like I plan so much like in my business because of
it.
like how many clients I have and everything I'm creating. But it's like in my free time, I just want to be like that
Yeah.
feminine flow. And
Yeah.
you definitely like gave me that gift of allowing myself to be that
Yeah.
one that renders because you plan. So I'm like so
Oh, I love it.
grateful. That was so
It
needed. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
my pleasure. For those who don't know, we visited last year. Vanessa's in Victoria. I'm in Guelph, Ontario, and
Yeah.
we went on to this day, still the best road trip of my life. 4 hour road trip to
Such a
Tofino,
beautiful drive. Yeah.
an hour plus up the mountain. And
Mhm.
on the way home, I drove the whole way. And she unfortunately couldn't nap too well because I was very windy road.
It was a
But
windy road. Like you're not a bad driver. It was just like it's a windy road for sure.
she just had
Yeah.
a great time in the
Yeah.
passenger seat. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Yes, it's so
BC is
beautiful.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah, you're like even there, I'm always the one that drives, and so I definitely got to be the passenger and you drove me
Yeah.
because like I was like the spent child, like where it's like mom's taking me everywhere. Now I'm just like boom. It's like yeah, we
Oh,
had a
it was
lovely
amazing.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the hot springs were probably one of my faves, like in Tofino because I hadn't done that, and that was like a lot of fun
Yeah.
and seeing like yeah, and seeing like Makiba with the captain. That those two were probably my fave moments.
Yeah. Yeah. He was kind of cute too.
Yeah,
I liked his accent.
yeah.
Um, Tofino, I mean, the whole trip.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, that first moment up in the seaplane when we were going to the mainland, like, and that true feeling in my heart of like, I'm a really good mother landed.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but Tofino, when we did those little ceremonies too, like
Mhm.
Tofino is a very, very healing place. And I've heard this before, but it
Yes.
will have a place in my heart. I mean, all of it. BC, like all of it is going to have a place in my heart. But yeah, Tofino was really, really amazing. Very
It,
healing.
it has a
Yeah.
lot of that water energy, right? So, and like
Yeah.
kind of mermaid energy too. It's got
Yeah.
like healing, like the healing
Mother energy,
waters.
very
Yeah.
mother energy.
A
Yeah.
lot of that like emotional, transformative kind of like
Mm-hmm.
It's like clearing through the waters, like for sure. It has that
Mm-hmm.
energy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Amazing.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was
Yes.
so great.
Yeah.
If people want to get in touch with you or learn about Soul Guiding Institute, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so the best way is for them to go to soulguidinginstitute.com. Right now, there's a landing page where you can put like your email to get notified when we launch, which should be in a few months. And that would be the best way. That is like your ticket or the gateway or the portal for you to really know like about the intentional curated experiences I'm going to be leading both certificate training programs. And I'm also going to lead a retreat in October, but on Salt Spring Island. So I'm on Vancouver Island. And so that's like very close, but also just like a very sacred space and a very beautiful space to lead from too. So yeah, that's the best way for people to reach me. And of course, you can reach me personally. I work with one-on-one clients too at vanessabenolo.com. But a lot of what we spoke today is really geared towards Soul Guiding Institute. And so that's probably the best spot. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my pleasure. Thank you. And yeah, definitely reach out to Vanessa if you feel called to. She's an amazing woman, and I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Blessings.